Elegy for My Father, Part 4, I think. My father, David Paul LaMontagne, was born on the 13th day of September in 1930. By 1972, Dad had quit working on the Apollo space project for IBM and was transferred to a project near Thousand Oaks. I was away at college at Reed at the time this transfer took place. Interestingly enough, Dad found for us a very nice house in Thousand Oaks, and the story of it was something like this. IBM moved a lot of its people in those days, and because it did, it guaranteed for people the sale of their house. Now, this was not a hard guarantee to make, since the housing was a seller's market in those days, and usually at the worst they could sell a house within a year, and frequently quickly enough that there'd be no serious bank money tied up by it. The Bank of America bankrolled this for IBM. So Dad was looking at houses, and the realtor described a kind of house that Dad might be interested in, a California house with a central courtyard and the house around that central courtyard. And Dad said, okay, he'd like to see something like that. And the realtor explained that the only one he could show Dad wasn't available for sale. It was tied up in court or something. But he had available for a showing, so Dad could see this kind of house, and there were another dozen or more houses of this kind around the town, and one of them was for sale. He just couldn't take Dad to it. So they went in and they saw this house, and literally, I mean, there was a garage and there were rooms all around, and it was nicely divided. At the very end of one wing were 3 bedrooms for me and my brothers, with a bathroom that was very nicely arranged in that it opened out of a corridor, and the sinks were directly off of the corridor, not behind any doors or walls. And behind the sinks there was a door into a little room with a toilet. Behind the sinks there was a door to a little room with a shower. This worked great for 3 boys sharing. Then in the upper corner of the house, the kitchen, dining room, living room, and completely on the other side of the house from the 3 boys, a bedroom and a sitting room for the parents in the bedroom with their own ensuite bathroom. It was a great kind of a house. So Dad said, so why isn't it for sale? So comes the explanation. This house had been for sale under the IBM program that they would sell it for their people that they moved, and Bank of America was administering it. And the people who were going to buy the house were a married couple and the married couple's business partner. They had a business which took place in the Los Angeles area and in Hawaii on Oahu, and the 2 partners would swap where they were from time to time. So this couple liked this house because they could live in it here, and when the partners swapped, the partner could stay over in the bedroom in the other section of the house. A reasonably nice deal. As the deal was signed and aimed for closing, some realtor made a smart-ass comment about the swinging arrangement that these folks had. And these folks took offense at that and pulled out of the project. And then they started fussing for their earnest money back, but Bank of America presumed that it was entitled to the earnest money even if the deal didn't come off. So people started suing one another. The people who were going to buy the house sued the realtor, and the Bank of America sued the people who were going to buy the house because they didn't follow through on the sale, and the realtor sued the people who were going to buy the house for not following through on the sale, and Bank of America for not recompensing him in some fashion. There were some complications there. It was a mess, and it had sat there as a mess for more than a year. I seem to think I heard years, but probably not more than 2. Otherwise people find resolutions of these things. Such as the resolution that came to them. My dad said, well, he said, I'll pay such and such for this house if everybody will drop their suit. And since that would flow the money around, fill the pockets of the people who needed their money back, especially Bank of America, who had its money in the physical house, And no one really had a case so incredible that they could expect to win a pile of money from somebody else in this thing. Everybody went, oh, thank God. And Dad got this house for a lot less than would have been expected. I won't try to compare housing prices. If you ever have to know about housing prices yourself, you can look up history and see how very much different they were. Housing prices have to be measured sensibly in some sort of terms of what people expected to earn. So Dad got into this. This was Thousand Oaks. I never lived with them there. Both my brothers graduated from high school there. And my brother Gene lived in that area for a long time. Marty, shortly after he got out of high school, went down to the San Diego area, or maybe it was 3 or 4 years after. Mom and Dad got moved around in Southern California. For a while they lived up in Lompoc, near the Air Force's Vanguard base, from which they launched some satellites. Later, Dad got moved back to the Thousand Oaks area, and they bought a different house back there, even though they were living within 3 or 4 miles of where they lived before. And eventually, he got sent out to Colorado, to Longmont. Now, I think that some of these last jobs he had were helping to write the software or engineer the interface between the software and the hardware for the GPS system, when the GPS system was still an Air Force secret and was not publicly available. I think that was the case. It's not been thoroughly declassified, but GPS has pretty much been declassified, just not the story of how the events took place. I think my dad was working on that at the end of his career. In any case, they ended up in Colorado, where my dad retired, and when he retired, he and my mother had built for themselves a beautiful house in Estes Park, Colorado, high up in the mountains, right at the entrance to Rocky Mountain National Park. And that's where I'm going to conclude this segment.